What's up, guys? It's time for some pro revenge. Let's get in the stories, and I'll see you in a bit. I led a revolution against a horrible lying manager. To set the scene, I work in a bookstore, but I'm very much an underling, which is what I prefer. I'm usually in the back helping unpack shipments and prepare them for shelving. I also collect online orders and pack them up for shipping, and sometimes I do the night shelving or overnight projects. It's always been my favorite because I rarely have to deal with the managers, and it's a much more carefree environment than working the floor and trying to push people into buying things. Our store has gone through several store managers recently because most of them are getting into corporate promotions or they're finding better opportunities elsewhere. Our store is part of a nationwide chain, and we're sadly struggling a lot against our competitors. Rather than promoting someone within our store who knows our store's functions and is familiar with the employees and their strengths, corporate has been assigning us store managers that are either not from our store, have never been a store manager before, or have no experience in book selling. Obviously, this creates a lot of problems and it's been affecting our store badly. Nothing screws us over worse than when corporate intervenes. A couple years ago, we got a new store manager that was unfamiliar with the company, unfamiliar with our store, and had zero experience in managing a retail store to begin with. We already had concerns, but decided to at least work with her because maybe she'd be a natural, or she'd develop into someone that was good for our store. I'm gonna call her Tamara. When Tamara was brought into our store, rather than taking a week or two to observe our store and the employees before making adjustments and changing things, she leapt right in, changing store policies and taking on other people's tasks. She took other things like the scheduling and making sure we have a daily schedule posted every morning to know where we're supposed to be, when our breaks were, etc. And other jobs that take a long time to do and have always been delegated to assistant managers to help run things smoothly. She put people in places where they weren't trained, but didn't spend any time training them on their new jobs. She was also very late with every weekly schedule. It would be 9 p.m. Saturday night, and we would still be waiting for the schedule for the next week. And our scheduled weeks always starts on a Sunday. So we'd literally be repeatedly calling the store on Saturday night to find out if we had to show up the next morning. So many sections of the store fell into disarray, and everyone was getting angry about not having our schedules. She clearly couldn't handle so much and refused to delegate things to change that. On top of that, she gave horrible advice. Just to give an example, she advised the shelvers to hide from customers while they were shelving, so they wouldn't have to be stopped to provide customer service. But worst of all, she broke the cardinal rule of the store. Do not mess with the back room. The back room is where we handled shipments and had its own separate manager who ran that area like clockwork. It was completely organized. We had a system we were well trained in, and we had always had things processed fast and all the new product unboxed, organized on carts, and ready to be shelved on time. Tamara didn't bother to observe and of this and put all her focus on that back area. She got it in her head that our store would thrive if we completely changed up the back room, and she had no idea what we actually do back there. First, she took away a lot of our carts, so we had less to stock our product on, and our usual shipments are anywhere from 150 to 200 boxes a day. That's a lot of books, and we need those carts. Then, she took away the shelving carts we used on our carts to help divide up the titles, not only by their main subject, like history or science, but also divide them up by their subcategories, like history, Civil War, or science, physics. The cards made it so that the shelvers don't have to look up every single item to figure out where they go. They can just grab them and shelve them, only having to worry about getting the author's names in order alphabetically. So now we have overstuffed, disorganized carts, and they're not getting shelved on time because the shelvers had to keep looking up where everything goes. We tried to explain this to Tamara over and over again in every way we could think to explain it, but she refused to listen and shifted the blame onto us. She also told us that taking away the cards was corporate's idea, not hers, and that they were no longer a required item for the stores. We did our best to try to still get things organized, but we were being rushed so fast and had so many books to work with, there was no time to scan through every single item, organize them on the cart, and try to remember where we put which subsection on each cart. I honestly felt bad for the shelvers, and a lot of them threatened to, and did, quit. It made our job in the back room frustrating because we knew we were being forced to screw them over, and when things don't work well in the back, it hits the entire store. Less product is being shelved, workers are getting stressed trying to figure out where things go. Morale could not have been worse. And the worst part was she refused to listen to anyone who approached her with concerns. Her attitude was, "Work smarter, not harder," and "just make it happen." Sorry, retail does not work that way. This is where I come in. Working in the back specifically on online orders, I didn't have to deal with her face to face much because I was always running around and frankly avoiding her because I didn't want to deal with her. This gave me an advantage. Not only was I able to see the notes she was leaving behind for employees, telling them what they were doing wrong, her bad ideas like making the shelvers hide from customers, and announcing the things she was changing that were hurting our work. On top of that, I was able to eavesdrop on the meetings she would hold back there with the assistant managers, explaining her great new ideas, which were all horrible, with so many of my coworkers threatening to quit and getting miserable with work, knowing what they would have to deal with. We agreed we had to do something. So I went online to look up ideas for the best way to handle this and got some good tips. Now the revenge. I snuck my phone into the back and started taking pictures of every note, every announcement, even the disorganized carts and the giant mess she was creating in the back room. We had a mountain of boxes we couldn't even get to because the carts were not being emptied fast enough to give us room. I eavesdropped on as many of her little meetings in the back room as I could. I could keep track on what other policies she was breaking. Even caught her trash talking us, calling one of our mentally ill coworkers overly dramatic, even though that coworker never speaks up and just takes it when she's upset, saying we were too stuck in our old ways and too stubborn for change. Even called the manager who ran the back room an idiot and laughing about how pissed off Tomorrow was making her. Then I went digging through the store's computer until I found the full list of corporate guidelines, most of which she had broken and didn't care. The biggest of all being the scheduling. And it turns out it's against our state's labor laws for managers not to give us our schedules 14 days in advance. After I collected as much as I could, I collaborated with other angry coworkers gathering what other additional information they had. And together we compiled a document, each of us explaining what was going wrong, what rules and labor laws were being broken, and all the included pictures I had taken with my phone to provide evidence. We did include the disrespectful way she was talking to us and about us, but none of us really expected that to be taken seriously, as we had no proof to provide. After we all looked it over and agreed we were satisfied with it, we emailed a copy to corporate, a copy to HR, and a copy to the regional manager who had assigned Tamara to us in the first place. It only took 24 hours before the regional manager was called in and questioned about why on earth he kept Tamara employed with us and how he could not know all the crap she'd been doing. I would have given him some slack, But the truth was, he had visited our store on a regular basis, seen the majority of this stuff, and did nothing, since his ass was on the line for hiring her, and didn't want to look bad by admitting his mistake. Eventually, people from corporate showed up to speak with Tamara and the regional manager. I wasn't there to see it, but according to the few who did, because it was held in our back room, she was drunk. Honest to God, drunk. She was slurring her words, wavering in her seat, and could barely give a cohesive answer to anything they asked her. It ended in them telling her to hand in her resignation, because it would look better for her than if she were just fired. She walked out of there having no idea who had taken this to corporate, and even saw the document we comprised anonymously against her. About a month later, the regional manager also resigned, as he did not recover from letting her do this. We're still having problems with new managers, but our store has earned the reputation as the store who will not put up with this kind of crap. And that's caused them to be a little more cautious as to who they assign to us. And that, to me, is the ultimate win. Never mess with the underlings. Alright guys, it's just going to be the one story for today. It seems that all pro revenge stories lately have been freaking essays in length. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, consider subscribing. And if you really liked it, give it a like and a share. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.